Devlin is a relatively unknown manufacturer that makes keycaps. They're based in England, and some of these sets have been made particularly for ortholinear layouts. These are the Devlin K-Series Aurora that I got from UK Keycaps a while back, though I can't seem to find the original page. I remember them being about £75 or something like that, which is about $100 with current exchange rates. This is pretty high for an ortholinear set, but these are pretty different from anything else on the market right now, so I think they're justified. They have a pretty distinctive look. In terms of shape, the K-Series resembles Row 3 SA. They're approximately the same height with the same base geometry as well as a similar typeface geometry. The Devlin caps have a flatter typeface, which is visually noticeable. Additionally, these have a lot more texture than SA, which is very smooth. In terms of aesthetics, I don't think I really like it. You've seen it on my new Mini, which I think looks really weird, especially with the high profile angled case. I thought it would go a little bit better with a flat high profile case like a Prionic, but I don't think that's the case. The keycaps are so darn tall that it awkwardly stands out. As a matter of fact, even when installed on my minivan, which has a very high profile design or an envelope design, the Devlin K-Series just looks out of place. I can imagine that these were made for industrial use in things like control panels or POS systems considering the 1U and 2U availabilities, and while they might have looked fine there, the shape just doesn't really work on keyboards. This is kind of interesting because I think uniform Row 3 SA can look good in certain applications, and I think that's because of the smaller typeface, which gives more of a vintage look rather than the industrial one that Devlin offers. This isn't the end to the set's ugliness though. I really don't like the legends on these. The alphas have a really thin and spindly font, while some mods like Shift, Control, and Alt are more bold. There are also some inconsistencies that stand out when you go looking for them. The Shift key is really all over the place. The print starts off with a thin font, then gets progressively bolder and bolder, which is really dumb. Additionally, the number row is less than satisfactory. If you look at the alignment of the numbers and symbols, it's really all over the place, with the 5 key being the worst offender on my set. Unfortunately, this is not all. This last point sort of narrows down to this particular set and its colorway. I think it's really ugly. It resembles the whole Dancer and Dasher colorway, which I don't really like to begin with, but the grainy texture on the keycaps reflects the light in a way that makes the colors look cheap and toy-like. Overall, I don't really like the way this set looks. The particular colors chosen don't really work with the texture on the K-Series, and the profile itself really causes clashes between the case and the keycaps. I think when it comes to aesthetics in high-profile sets, SA still reigns supreme. Speaking of which, the K-Series and SA have a lot in common. The most striking difference between the two profiles is the wall thickness. Double-shot SA caps have this stepped internal structure that gets thicker towards the top of the cap. At the thinnest, it's about 1.1mm, and at the thickest, 2.3. By contrast, the Devlin caps maintain a constant 2.2mm thickness through the whole height of the cap. You may be worried that with this kind of thickness, there might be collision problems, like with cherry profile keycaps and north-facing switches, but surprisingly, that's a non-issue. Though it is a tight fit, the keycaps are able to depress fully without hitting the switch housing because of the bottom cutout shape that closely follows the shape of the top. Anyway, this crazy thickness means that there is definitely more material per keycap. At 2.2 grams per cap versus SPSA's 1.9 grams, Devlin caps weigh about 15% more. I think this results in a slightly deeper sound, though not by much. As I mentioned in my Revo 1 review, some keyboards can be too tall to type on with high-profile keycaps installed, and for me this is the case for the ortholinear boards that this set supports. When installed on a Plank or a Prionic, the typing height is raised significantly enough to the point that it's uncomfortable. When compared to my Plank using XDA, the difference in typing height is actually only about 3mm, but it is a big enough change that I feel like I have to raise my wrists a little more than usual. This is going to be particularly difficult if you type with your wrists resting on the table, since you'll have to do a lot of reaching. All in all, I don't really like typing on the K-Series because I find it uncomfortable, and whatever board I have it on usually gets neglected because of that. So far, it seems like the K-Series has nothing good going for them. They're ugly, inconsistent, and difficult to use, but it's not all bad. As mentioned, the sheer amount of material in each keycap contributes to a more deeper and hollower sound, which you may or may not like. The amount of space that's in each keycap creates a little room for the sound to reverberate off of, which can amplify it. This creates sort of a deeper and louder signature that some might like. Here's a sound test on my Plank with looped Gateron yellows and Zeal housings. While I think this sounds pretty good, I don't think it's going to be drastically different from Uniform Row 3 SA. I can't confirm this for sure because I don't own such a set, but just by testing a couple keys side by side, I can tell that though there is a difference, it is small. So yeah, I think the Devlin K-Series Aurora set is a definite miss for me. It's ugly and it's hard to use. However, the usability portion of my criticism is consistent with my dislike for SA, so if you like typing on high-profile keycaps, you might find this easier to use. Sure, it does sound good, but it's not so significantly better that SA isn't a good enough alternative. Besides, these are meant for ortholinear keyboards, which I think generally look better with lower profile keycaps like XDA or DSA. So yeah, I don't really recommend this profile. I know some newcomers look for the thickest set out there, but after a certain point it just doesn't make that much of a difference, and with these, you're really giving up a lot. Thank you for watching, and if you liked the video, like it, subscribe for more like this, and leave a comment on whether you like high profile sets or not.